Eastern individual. The Eastern individual finds this state of affairs unreasonable and feels a certain solidarity with the Russian who Tualaiki. That's pretty. Yeah, that's Tualaiki. Yeah, I think so. This should be more. That should be a different texture. This is a different fabric. The fabric is different. You have no pantaloons. It's okay. It's creative. So the Western individual's just trying to see that his wife gets dressed beautifully and stuff. Well, they're all beautiful. It's a woman underneath. You always think it's the clothing. Well, yeah. The Eastern individual finds this state of affairs unreasonable. And they find my podcast unreasonable and feels a certain solidarity with the Russian who has old and unpleasant scars to settle with the West. Why do they think, who thinks they have old and unpleasant scars? I mean, why is there an unpleasant scar? Why would they have them? Who's right? This book is from 1951. We haven't resolved. That's pretty. That's more elegante, or sort of like. That's very Mejor. Yeah, it's quite classical. It's very. She has a red top with the white skirt, and we're like more concerned with that. Okay. I'm more concerned with that. I mean, I didn't even go to 6:30 doubles tennis. I wanted to stay home with my wife on a Sunday morning, and she's fussing over her clothes, but I think it's important. It's very important to do a meaningful podcast. Instead of this. And I read about, I was reading about Venezuela, about how they should have the freedom empanadas, yeah, about how they closed down their little kitchen with the empanadas, and they fed the opposition, and so I'm trying to free the Venezuelans in this podcast, by reading from The Captive Mind, get them from being a captive by the tax authorities. And so their kitchen that didn't have power, despite they don't hardly have any power to run their kitchen, to make empanadas, the tax authorities come. Yeah, that's like a really corrupt. Empanadas, yeah.
You like empanadas?
No, I'm just reading a story. I was reading the paper. It's about Venezuela, the problems. They have an election. They have an election. Sometimes I read the New York Times on Sunday mornings, a little before. I hadn't gone to 6:30 doubles tennis, which I wouldn't have any time with my wife before she goes to church. Huh? I like that one, yeah, of course. That's good. You have so many choices here. The other one was, it's like show and tell here. Beautiful unto God or unto her husband. I like this hair. It's more beautiful. This. That's impressive from a man's point of view. This one's impressive when you have the figure.
Yes.
She's got the figure, they would say. I like that one a lot, and I like the hair. This one I like the most, yeah. I like a dress. She looks good in a dress. Yeah, I like. Wear that one so I can see it. It should be just to entertain the husband. What is with you? Once you read the book. Page 44. The Pole, the Czech, or Hungarian of average education. Yeah, the American, like myself, of average education, knows a good bit about France, Belgium, or Holland. Well, I guess I've been to Belgium. I've been to Holland and been to France, but I think I know a bit about France. The Frenchman, the Belgian, or Hollander of average education knows a little about Poland, Czechoslovakia, or Hungary. So most Americans know very little about Poland, Czechoslovakia, or Hungary. Huh. Yeah, well, they're saying we don't know anything about poor education. What happened to globalism? What is the problem? Your hair looks beautiful, the dress is beautiful. You have a shower, you got the nice shoes. Huh. Corto. Yeah, this one woman was saying about the time that the women spend with the makeup and the beauty treatment and the clothing and the dressing and the hairbrushing the hair, the amount of time. Yeah, well, just because you're dirty and don't comb your hair. Yeah, so. Huh. Well, the Eastern individual finds this state of affairs unreasonable and feels a certain solidarity with the Russian, who has old and unpleasant scores to settle with the West. So what he did is he sent nuclear submarine to Cuba, and they track each other around with the Americans. They send a nuclear sub. It's very elegante, Amar. It's beautiful. I really like it. Can I take a photo? You stop and take photos. Davey should do. No finish. God. They have unscores because of because they have scores in Venezuela because the beautiful Colombian woman came here. She came here and married me and didn't want to go to Venezuela. Oh, okay. Even though he is irritated by Russian inferiority complex, which leads her to demand constant homage and assurances of her unquestionable superiority. The West's disdain of Central and Eastern Europe upsets him even more, for it seems to spring from a lack of recognition of the change in proportion which has occurred in the 20th century. Yeah, so there's been a change in the proportion, and they do have maybe an inferiority complex. Russia's inferiority complex, which is Putin has. He's inferior because, one, he's not very tall and he's small, and he tried to ride that horse with the bear shirt, and he couldn't beat me in tennis. Okay. Even though he is irritated by Russia's inferiority complex, which leads Putin to demand constant homage and assurances of his unquestionable superiority.
Christy. I like
What?
it. Ayan, wala.
I know that's nice and all.
Pero yung
You
kulay,
look like she's dressed like Jacqueline Kennedy or something. Yeah. They're pearls. Pearl necklace is perfecto with this dress. You look like you should go to English. You go to church with Davy? An English church in Manhattan? You look like you should go. I should show off. You want to show off? What's a planos? Does Bus Inglesia we do anything? No to Pepsi or anything? No. Oh no, she's usually tired and we're all tired. In the tired day, we're usually tired. Oh God. It's because of all that meditation. You've got a beautiful wife and all those credits or something. Yeah. I got credit, quality points and stuff, and I don't have inferiority complex. It's clear that my wife is the most beautiful of all in the neighborhood. Okay. So you're not inferior in any way? No. A lack of recognition of the change in proportion which has occurred in the 20th century. These countries have a large population which has displayed a definite ability to adapt itself to the exigencies of modern technology. They are rich in natural resources, and their mining and heavy industry are rapidly developing. Their worker, it no longer resembles the helpless immigrant who, setting out for the West in search of bread, was forced to accept the lowest type of manual labor. Yeah, it used to be that, like, the people escaping the Iron Curtain had to accept the lowest type of manual labor. Yeah, well, we could take those Venezuelans and to come in and to give them the lowest type of manual labor. Their technicians and scholars can compete successfully with their Western colleagues. Yeah, well, they do have a lot of good Russian pianists, and they still have Russians that are physicists and stuff, and all that stuff. And there's like up 10 million, like, Russian piano players, but I thought there was 10 million Chinese piano players. So, yeah, well, yeah, they say when they had the one-child system in China, like, the parents want to educate their one child, so they all got a piano lessons. Oh, okay. Also, you're saying with large families can't afford to give all 7 or so piano lessons. Their technicians and scholars can compete successfully with their Western colleagues. Their writers and musicians cannot complain of any lack of talent. Yeah. So we shouldn't complain, yeah. And what is more, from every point of view, these countries seem to be the most important part not only of Europe, but of the whole world. If we assume that the new faith will spread throughout the earth, then these are the first and therefore most interesting areas of the experiment outside Russia itself. Yeah, the experiment of the new faith is to see how communism is going to succeed, which in this book is the new faith. Oh, you believe in not in God, but in communism? And how did that work out? If we assume that the center will lose, then the economic and culture patterns that will arise subsequently in these countries will certainly be new, for there is no such thing in history as a return to the status quo. Yeah, there's no way to return to the status quo. You can't really bring back the Soviet Empire. So, then is one not justified in checking this idolatry of Western models? which was so prevalent among the culture circles of the Eastern Marches. Why should present-day French painting, born in a country living on remembered glories, be imitated in Prague or Warsaw? Why should English plays written for a completely different public be played in these Eastern capitals? So they don't need to listen to Shakespeare, huh? That's quite beautiful, Mom. She has this blue summer dress on with the pearls, and white shoes. And it's hard to appreciate unless you see it on the hair. And the rellos adjusted to match. She changes there. You cambio the band to the watch here? And she adjusts the band on the Apple Watch to match.
I like it comprar en
It matches the dress.
Chicago, esto es Chicago.
Do as much as I can to show appreciation. Yeah, you are an excellent husband. Yeah, what? Hello? Yeah. One must break this habit of imitation, which was inevitable as long as French, English, or Belgian capital, investing in the mines, railroads, and factories of the Eastern Marches, pushed its books, films, and wokeness, and books, films, and styles upon them. Well, did we push it? Well, the Eastern man sometimes feels pushed around, I guess, by books. What? You push these books in the podcast. What are you doing now? Yeah. I'm pushing this book in a podcast. So this is what you mean, yeah. Just as nationalized industry now stands on its own feet, so Eastern European cultures must learn to stand by their own strength. Okay. So in other words, Ukraine should stand by its own strength, and NATO should recapitalize and stand on its own strength. Really? What are you saying? Unhappily, in freeing themselves from the spell of the West, the literature, science, and art of these marches become totally dependent on the new metropolis. Yeah, once imitation was spontaneous and voluntary, but now it is obligatory. Any attempt to find one's own way is denounced as Titoism. Yeah, you can't just go your own way. You have to join NATO. You either go with Putin or you go with NATO. You can't just go your own way. Wait a minute, why can't you? Oh, okay. Well, eventually we're going to be eliminating countries altogether. The AIs take over and eliminate it because they're sick and tired of it. Okay. Any attempt to reach into one's own national past is possible only to the extent that past parallels the development of the Russian nation. One may turn to folklore, obviously, and to the realistic plays of the 19th century. Well, what are the plays of the 19th century? You haven't been going to any plays. Mommy, we have to go. I have to stop you. I'm going to stop this podcast and go to see the play of life. Unhappily, in freeing themselves from the spell of the West, the literature, science, and arts of these marches became totally dependent on the new metropolis. Once imitation was spontaneous and voluntary, but now it is obligatory. Any attempt to find one's own way is denounced as Titoism. Any attempt to reach into one's own national past is possible only to the extent that the past parallels the development of the Russian nation. One may return to folklore, obviously, and to the realistic place of the 19th century. But, for example, Poland has a tradition of romantic drama, which does not lend itself to realistic presentation. It also possesses a tradition of stage production, which is known as monumental theater. And this is a monumental podcast. To continue such traditions would smack of a dangerous heresy. The fight against cosmopolitanism is in reality nothing more than the act of emptying a retort and refilling it with a different fluid. In the past, a particular substance was created in this retort through the interaction of native and imported elements. Today, the imported element appears in much purer form. For a significant number of laboratory workers are eager to maintain the necessary respect for the formula. Yeah. You've got to have respect for the formula. In the last century, the decadent West was condemned by patriotic Russian historians because it was liberal. Yeah, so they're condemned because they're decadent by the Russian historians, and because the ideas that emanated from it threatened autocratic governments. Nor was it only these defenders of the throne who criticized it mercilessly. One has but to read Tolstoy's What is Art to get a picture of the scorn for Western sophistication that is so typical of the Russians. Why do they have so much scorn? Well, they still seem to have scorn. Why do they scorn Western sophistication? Well, they scorn things like this podcast, because it's... Why is that? What is art? Tolstoy regarded Shakespeare's plays as collections of bloody crimes, and French painting, that is the period of the flowering of Impressionism, as the daubs of degenerates. It's degenerate, yeah. Well, the Impressionism isn't bad looking. I mean, there's much worse art. Right? After the revolution, when once again the social system of Russia differed from that of the West, it was not difficult to enlarge on this precedent with a goodly number of arguments. Oh my God. You got a cold? Yeah, I have an air conditioner cold. Why did you breathe in from an old air conditioner? Does it cause a cold? Yeah. It's caused by a goodly number of arguments. Didn't Russia's strength lie in its suspicion of the West? And weren't even the Tsarist historians working for the revolution by cultivating Russia's self-assurance and faith in the special calling of the nation? Yeah, and they have a special calling now to attack Ukraine, so it's a special calling. What's so special about it? Sounds horrible, yeah. Conscious of their hitherto latent power, the Scythians, as the great Russian poet Blok called his nation, at last began to march. Therefore, it would seem that the nations lying between the Baltic and Mediterranean seas would do well to imitate this Russian self-assurance and free themselves from the bad habit of parroting of the West. Yeah, and they shouldn't watch American TV or movies and things like that. It's trash. Okay. The intellectual understands, of course, that he himself is cosmopolitan. Well, I understand that I'm probably cosmopolitan, so... Yeah, you're like New Yorker who reads the New York Times and who traveled around the world, and you have all these different universal things with the religions and all subsets of everything. The intellectual understands, of course, that he himself is cosmopolitan, since he looks to the West for something. Yeah, I've been looking for that something. I thought you looked to the East for a something. Well, I found something in the East. Oh, what was that? This does not mean, however, that he complains about the orders that have banished Parisian boulevard art or American detective stories from his country. A great many cultural phenomena which excite the elite in Western countries are distasteful to him. Yeah, there's a lot of things that excite the elite in the West, but it's distasteful to Putin. Okay. Ask whether T.S. Eliot's The Cocktail Party should be played in his native land. He would undoubtedly answer no, whereas he finds The Wasteland by the same author as interesting piece of poetry. The new acquisition that the people of Central and European and Eastern Europe will never want to relinquish is the feeling of responsibility for what the public gets from editors and producers. If, for example, one considers a bad play, one should not present it even though it may be considerable financial success. Just imagine the Prague or Warsaw worker looking at The Cocktail Party. On the other hand, the ban on Stravinsky's Les Sacres de Printemps is obviously absurd. Why did they ban this Rite of Spring? Yeah, it was too sexy or something. Yeah, why did they do that? That was too crazy. The cosmopolitanism of the intellectual I describe is very moderate. He makes distinctions between what is worthy of his respect in the West and what owes his success to cheap publicity, appealing to the taste of a dubious elite. Yeah, I'm trying to appeal to the taste of a dubious elite in this podcast. Okay. That's good, but you should maybe try to get some rest to get your voice back and stop breathing in the dust from your air conditioner. I know there's a heat wave and all this stuff, and your podcast has become dubious and elitist because of that. Yeah. Okay. Being early and being there before you have to be there is the extreme elite, but there's other people of the dubious elite that they think you can go later to everything and they don't understand life. So I have more time for the podcast. What's happening? Huh? Yeah. The superiority of the Russian realistic painting. So even if I am the dubious elite, I can talk about the superiority of Russian realistic painting over French Impressionism has been proved in Moscow. Yeah, so realistic painting. Unfortunately, the eye is used in the appreciation of a painting, and the most learned discourse cannot just transform an ugly canvas into a great work of art, which is obviously to be deplored. Yeah. And you can't transform this into a great work of art in this podcast. Just because that's a Nobel Prize winning book and stuff doesn't make you finish at 12, 12 or so? I don't know when Davey finishes. Davey's similar.
¿A qué horas you finish?
Me? No, I finish about 12:30.
Sí, no, sí, a las 12.
You finish then? I could.
No, a las 11, Olga, a las 11.
You can text me. You could go to coffee or something. If you need a ride, you have to llama me, or you can test me. Ooh. She's working, preparing for the birthday party of the child, the niños, nietas, the grandchild. So it's not deplorable. So it's good stuff. Yeah, it's good. Oh yeah, her food is good cooking and stuff. It's not dubious in any way. Okay. At every step it is in the realm of aesthetics or ethics one encounters the opposition of the strangeness of man, races against the wisest of theories. So that's all I care about anyways, is to check it out here. Before it gets cold, it's dubious, so. Why do you drink that stuff? Well, it's part of. It is reasonable that a responsibly raised child should inform on his father if he observes his behavior to be contrary to the good of the social order on whose well-being the happiness of all mankind depends. Yeah, there was this one. The thing is, these ancestors of these Greek people, they were the child, the Nazis came and to inspect the house, and the child stared at the place on the floor where the guns were hidden, and the grandfather got killed. What happened? Well, there was no grandfather, and yet the disgust such behavior awakens in many people as just as inexplicable as their preference for money over Russian 19th century realist. The recklessness with which the Russians are carrying out their campaign in Ukraine is reaching dangerous proportions. The recklessness with which the Russians are carrying out their mental operations in the people's democracies is reaching dangerous proportions. Consistent reasoning which orders one to bypass a fact when a concept comes into conflict with reality must eventually lead to costly errors. Yeah. What's your money? What's for Olga? Oh, yeah, it's for Olga. Oh, God. Why if I have a cold tomorrow? Is it the air conditioner?
Eso no.
God, I hate air conditioning.
Eso es lo que agripa, eso.
I'm going to Alaska. It's probably hot there. Shit. I hate it hot. Why did you go to to your summer home in New Zealand or whatever it is you do? Oh my God. Huh. Well, costly errors in this podcast. Hitler's war on degenerate art sprang from the same seed as the new ethics of his party, which ordered the slaughter of inferior races, and in these... This is serious stuff about the slaughter of inferior races, and in these very ideas lay the causes of his defeat. Okay. Knowing the center's demand that science and art conform to the method, instead of searching for objective truth and beauty, the intellectual comes to the conclusion that it is not the wisdom of the West that will cause the downfall of the Imperium, but rather the aberrations to which the method leads. The method. I mean, this is the only method I have of podcasting when I get some free time. I'm basically waiting for my wife to get ready. And when I calculate using chaos theory, I calculate the correct time to actually leave, and then she takes away my chaos theoritarian thing and makes it idealized, and then she assumes that I had used chaos theory, and then she just ignores the fact that I use chaos theory, and she makes me go, wait, okay. Is that typical of women or most people? Or, well, I could always rush and traffic, and what doing the rushing is the cause of 90% of accidents. What? Are you going to have an accident? Well, sometimes I don't rush even. Sometimes I'm not even late when I have my late model. I'm still not late because I've double calculated and I've way overestimated the time because I'm one of the highest profile chaos theoreticians and risk managers on Wall Street. What? Oh yeah. Huh. So it's rare that I actually make a mistake. Yeah, but you made a lot of errors in your tennis game. Like Davey was malo. I lost no kane in the tennis yesterday. I had Grippo and I even had Alexandra, like a good player with a partner, and I still lost. Yeah. What's wrong with you? Yeah. Well, that's the problem.
Y es que con good no like tanto sol no good.
The sun? Tanto sun?
Más using camisa, using...
No, the camisa is only like 20 minutos, but only like 20 minutes. It's only off like 30 minutes. She's asking about the shirt.
Siga enfermo.
Enfermo? I don't take the shirt off all the time. I would get cancer. And, I am the top risk manager in the world and Wall Street. So is that why you have control over your sun exposure? And, you manage it to a perfect balance of risk? Yeah. Yeah, everything is perfectly managed. The time and the sun. That's all you have in this life is time and sun. Also, you worship the sun? Yeah. Okay. Announcing Mendelian genetics to be wrong. The center used roughly 3 groups of arguments. It contradicts the dialectical interpretation of Darwin's theory of the natural selection of species because it stresses those elements of his theory which are the reflection of the social circumstances of Darwin's day, namely the pitiless struggle for existence in a capitalist society. Yeah, and I struggled for existence in a capitalistic society. Jesus Christ. Well, you failed. So now you've failed in capitalism. You said you lost your tennis game, and what else are you failing in, for God's sakes? Your piano pieces have... Actually, I've gotten quite a few positive comments, but that's probably just to the people generally make positive comments. They don't deliver negative comments, probably. But yeah, but you make a lot of mistakes. But you sort of like that's the point of your playing, is to make mistakes. And maybe if they realize that, and you talk about how you don't practice at all, and the piece is completely fresh. You take a risk when you play that way, so that doesn't make sense. You say you're the top risk manager when you drive the car, but then when you play the piano, you take huge risk. And you play these hard pieces without practicing them, yeah. Well, yeah, that's why they get so colorful. Let's go. I'm gonna go. Lista means she's ready, so it's time to go. She's ready.
great. Better. That's it. Use your body as well. Beautiful.
The Eastern individual finds this state of affairs unreasonable and feels a certain solidarity with the Russian who are like this should be more. This is a different topic. Topic is different. We have no topic. It's okay. It's creative. So, Western individuals just try to address the problem. Well, they're all beautiful. Well, yeah. The Eastern individual finds the state of affairs unreasonable. They find not trust and feels a certain solidarity with the Russian, who has old and unpleasant scores to settle with the West. Why do they think? Who thinks they have old and unpleasant scores? Why is there an unpleasant score? Why would they have that? This book is reminding me. That's pretty. That's more elegante, sort of like that's very
Brazilian tennis balls.
it's quite classical. It's very, there's a red top with a white.
All right, that is not the proper place to stand.
Or like more
There we go.
concerned.
That is what
I'm not concerned. I mean, I didn't even go to 6:30 doubles tennis. I didn't want to stay. She's fussing with her clothes. I think it's important. It's very important to do a meaningful podcast. When I read about, I was reading about Venezuela. We should have freedom empanadas. Now they closed down the kitchen.
You're already better.
Read the opposition. So I'm trying to read the Venezuelans in this podcast by reading from Captain One. Get them from being a captain.
Sure.
Yeah, that's like a really corrupt. Empanadas. Yeah. No, no, I'm just reading a story. Reading the paper. It's about Venezuela. Yeah, they have election. I read them. Sometimes I read them. I have six cities.
Wide open.
Huh? I like that one, yeah. That's good. You have so many choices. The other one is like show and stuff. Beautiful. I like this hair. It's more beautiful than this. That's impressive. From a man's point of view. This one's impressive. You have the figure. She's got the figure there. So. I like that one. I like the hair. This one I like the most. You know. I like her dress. She's looks good in the dress. Yeah. I like it. Wear that one so I can see. It should be just a image. I'm just with you. Once you read the book. Page 44. The Pole, the Czech, or Hungarian of average education. Yeah, the American, like myself, of average education. Knows a good bit about France. Belgium or Holland. Well, I guess I've been to Belgium. You know, I've been to Holland. Been to France. I think I know a bit about France. The Frenchman, the Belgian, or Hollander of average education knows a little about Poland, Czechoslovakia, or Hungary. So most Americans know very little about Poland, Czechoslovakia, or Hungary. Huh. Yeah, there was some reason. What is the cause? Careless, beautiful, dressed. You have a shower, you got the nice shoes. Look good. Got a fun room. About the time. The makeup. The beauty treatment.
Just on.
Well, the Eastern individual finds the state of affairs unreasonable and feels a certain solidarity with the Russian, who has old and unpleasant scores to settle with the West. So what he did is he sent Cuba. They'll track each other around. It's very elegante, you know. It's beautiful. I really like it. Can I take a photo? There you stop and take a photo. David should do. No finish. They have unscores because they have scores in Venezuela because they're beautiful. Colombia came Even though he is irritated by Russian inferiority complex, which leads her to demand constant homage and assurances of her unquestionable superiority. The West's disdain of Central and Eastern Europe upsets him even more, for it seems to spring from a lack of recognition of the change in proportion which has occurred in the 20th century. Yeah, so there's been a change in the proportion. And we do have maybe Russia's inferiority complex. Putin has, he's inferior. He's not very tall, small. He tried to ride that horse very short. Even though he is irritated by Russia's inferiority complex, which leads Putin to demand constant homage and assurances of his unquestionable superiority. What? I know that's not. You look like she's dressed like Jacqueline Kennedy. The pearls. Pearl necklace is perfectly with this dress. You look like you should go to England. You go to church with David? An English church? You look like it. You should show off. You want to show it's a canvas. This bus in Glacier, we do anything? Out to Pepsi? She's usually tired. We're all tired. In the tired day, we're usually tired. It's because of all that meditation. I got credit, quality points, stuff. And I don't have inferiority complex. It's clear that my wife is the most beautiful of all in the neighborhood. Okay. So you're not inferior? A lack of recognition of the change in proportion which has occurred in the 20th century. These countries have a large population which has displayed a definite ability to adapt itself to the exigencies of modern technology. They are rich in natural resources, and their mining and heavy industry are rapidly developing their worker. It no longer resembles the helpless immigrant who setting out for the West in search of bread was forced to accept the lowest type of manual labor. Yeah, it used to be that like the people escaping the Iron Curtain had to accept the lowest type of manual labor. Yeah, well, we could take those Palestinians, come in and give them the lowest type of manual labor. Their technicians and scholars can compete successfully with the Western colleagues. Yeah, well, they do have a lot of good Russian pianists, and they still have Russians who are physicists. There's only like a Russian piano players, but I thought there was 20 Russian Chinese players. Yeah, well. Yeah, they say when they have the one-child system in China, like the guys want to educate their one child, so they all got it from the West. Okay. So you're saying college families can't afford to give all this stuff. Their technicians and scholars can compete successfully with the Western colleagues. Their writers and musicians cannot complain of any lack of talent. Yeah. And what is more, from every point of view, these countries seem to be the most important part not only of Europe but of the whole world. If we assume that the new faith